This is Granny, the gourmet cook and zany star of the Beverly Hillbillies, Irene Ryan.
Thank you. And this is my partner, Morton Zebrack from Northridge, California.
She was the feisty, sharp-tongued matriarch of the Clampett family, the woman who made millions laugh with her rapid-fire one-liners and her signature lip-quivering rage. For 9 seasons, Irene Ryan captivated audiences as Granny Daisy Moses on the Beverly Hillbillies, becoming one of the most beloved characters in television history. But behind the laughter and the success lay a story of relentless struggle, hidden heartbreak, and a loneliness that no amount of fame could cure. Irene Ryan had spent 40 years grinding through poverty and obscurity before achieving global superstardom at the age of 59. And when the applause finally faded, she faced a tragic end that would leave her completely alone. Early life, vaudeville grind, and the rise to superstardom. Irene Ryan began her life in El Paso, Texas on October 17, 1902, born to a strict Army sergeant father and a traditional, deeply superstitious Irish immigrant mother. Her birth name was Irene Noblet, and her early years were marked by the instability that came with being the daughter of a military man. The family moved frequently, never staying in one place long enough to put down roots. When her father passed away unexpectedly, Irene's widowed mother, Katie, relocated the family to San Francisco, seeking a fresh start and better opportunities. They settled into a low-income household alongside Irene's sister, Annie, and a brother-in-law, struggling to make ends meet in a city that was booming but unforgiving to the poor. It was in San Francisco that Irene's life would take a dramatic turn. At age 11, she heard about an amateur talent contest at the Valencia Theater, a prominent vaudeville venue in the city's entertainment district. With nothing to lose and everything to gain, she entered the competition, performing the popular song, Pretty Baby. Her performance was a revelation. The audience was charmed by the young girl's natural stage presence and her ability to command the room. When the judges announced that she had won first prize, she walked away with $3, the equivalent of nearly $100 today. For a family struggling to survive, that prize money was a fortune. But more importantly, it cemented Irene's obsession with performance. She had tasted the thrill of the stage, and she knew she would never be content with anything else. Her mother, however, was deeply terrified of the entertainment industry. She was a profoundly religious woman who believed that the world of theater and performance was a sinful and dangerous place. She looked her daughter in the eye and delivered an ominous warning that would haunt Irene for the rest of her life. She told Irene that if she would ever encounter the devil, it would be backstage. The warning was meant to scare her away from the stage, but it had the opposite effect. Irene was determined to prove her mother wrong, to show that she could succeed in the world of entertainment without losing her soul. She would spend the rest of her career proving that she could be both a performer and a good person. The tension between her mother's religious convictions and her own artistic ambitions created a deep internal conflict that would follow her throughout her life. Driven to escape poverty, Irene did something highly illegal at age 14. California labor laws strictly banned anyone under 16 from working in professional theaters, but Irene was willing to take the risk. She falsified her age, claiming she was older than she actually was, to secure a contract with a traveling stock theater company. The deception was dangerous. If discovered, she could have been fired or even prosecuted. But Irene was desperate, and she was willing to do whatever it took to escape the poverty that had defined her childhood. She later reflected that she had never felt guilty about the lie because it had been necessary for her survival. The decision to deceive the authorities was a turning point, a moment when she chose her career over the law and set herself on a path that would define the rest of her life. By her late teens, Irene was a hardened professional, touring the grueling and dangerous American vaudeville circuits. Vaudeville was a brutal world where performers were subjected to intense scrutiny and the audiences were notoriously unforgiving. Performers who failed to connect with the audience were routinely pelted with rotten tomatoes, eggs, and whatever else happened to be within reach. The physical danger was real and the psychological toll was immense. But Irene thrived in this environment. She perfected her fast-paced physical delivery, learning to read a crowd and adjust her performance on the fly. She became a singer, dancer, and slapstick comedian, developing a versatility that would serve her well throughout her career. The years of touring taught her discipline, resilience, and the importance of connecting with an audience. She learned to perform through exhaustion, through illness, and through the constant rejection that came with the life of a traveling performer. In 1922, Irene married writer and comedian Tim Ryan, and the couple legally merged their careers into the comedy duo Tim and Irene. Irene performed under her maiden name, Variation, Irene Noblette, and the duo quickly became a popular act on the vaudeville circuit. Their partnership was both personal and professional, and for a time it seemed like the perfect arrangement. Between 1935 and 1940, the duo achieved moderate success, writing and starring in 12 comedic short films distributed nationally. These films established Irene's face in the film industry, even if she was still a long way from the superstardom that would eventually come her way. But the grind of vaudeville was relentless and the work was exhausting. The couple performed night after night, traveling from city to city, never staying in one place long enough to build a real home. The grueling lifestyle took a toll on their marriage, and by the late 1930s, Irene and Tim Ryan had separated privately. However, they realized that their solo income would plunge them back into poverty, so they made a calculated decision to live a double life. They hid their split from the public for years while continuing to perform as a happily married comedy team. It was the beginning of a pattern of emotional sacrifice that would define Irene's life. After 40 years of brutal obscurity, Irene achieved overnight global fame at age 59 when she was cast as Daisy Granny Moses on the Beverly Hillbillies in 1962. The show broke television records, rapidly ascending to the #1 program in America with unprecedented Nielsen ratings. It remained a global phenomenon for 9 seasons and 274 episodes. Her performance earned her back-to-back Primetime Emmy Award nominations for Outstanding Lead Actress in a Comedy Series in 1963 and 1964. Lucille Ball publicly praised her, stating that Irene Ryan was personally responsible for 85% of the Beverly Hillbillies' monumental success. For Irene, the recognition was bittersweet. She had finally achieved the fame she had always craved, but she was already in her 60s, and the cost of that success had been immense. The double life, radio, and Hollywood anonymity. The pattern of sacrifice and concealment that defined Irene Ryan's life continued through the 1930s and 1940s. By the late 1930s, the grueling lifestyle of touring had broken her marriage to Tim Ryan. However, they continued to perform, they continued to smile, and they continued to pretend that everything was fine. The charade was exhausting, but it was necessary for their survival. They had no other skills, no other way to make a living, and the prospect of returning to poverty was a terrifying one. The duo transitioned into national broadcasting with The Tim and Irene Show on NBC networks, masking their real-life divorce, which they finally finalized legally in 1942. The radio show was a success, giving the couple a steady income and a national platform. But the charade was exhausting, and the emotional toll of pretending to be something they were not was immense. Irene threw herself into her work, using the performances as an escape from the emptiness of her personal life. The radio show required them to maintain the illusion of a happy marriage, and they did so convincingly. But behind the scenes, the relationship was long over. The constant deception wore on Irene, and she began to withdraw emotionally, focusing all of her energy on her work. Following the permanent dissolution of the duo, Irene was left financially vulnerable. The years of touring and performing had taken a toll on her health and her finances, and she was struggling to make ends meet. But comic icon Bob Hope noticed her solo timing and hired her for the Bob Hope Show radio program from 1948 to 1950. The opportunity was a lifeline, and Irene seized it with both hands. She traveled thousands of miles across overseas military bases to entertain World War troops alongside Hope, who nicknamed her the gal who makes Bob Hope laugh. The nickname was a source of immense pride for Irene, who respected Hope's talent and work ethic. The tours were grueling, requiring her to perform in dangerous conditions, often under war fire. But she was driven by a sense of duty and a desire to bring comfort to the soldiers who were fighting for their country. It was during this period that Irene developed a unique physical technique that would later become her trademark. In the 1944 musical film Hot Rhythm, she played a minor role singing "The Happiest Girl in Town." To make her performance funny, she engineered a highly controlled physical technique where she violently trembled her lower mouth to simulate intense weeping. This obscure B-movie trick was archived in her mind for 20 years before she reused it to give Granny her iconic shaking, lip-quivering rage expressions. The technique was a testament to her meticulous approach to comedy, her willingness to experiment, and her dedication to her craft. It was a small moment in a minor film, but it would become the foundation of one of the most recognizable characters in television history. Throughout the late 1940s and 50s, Irene fell into a frustrating cycle of Hollywood anonymity. She was trapped playing uncredited or completely minor roles, usually cast as a fussy, nervous maid or an eccentric neighbor in films like Diary of a Chambermaid and Bonzo Goes to College. The roles were a far cry from the success she had once enjoyed with her husband, and they were a constant reminder of the progress she had failed to make. She was a talented performer with decades of experience, but Hollywood refused to see her as anything more than a background character. The frustration was immense, and Irene often questioned whether she had made the right choices in her life. She had sacrificed her marriage and her personal life for her career, and she had little to show for it. In 1946, she married movie producer Harold E. Harry Knox. The marriage was a brief attempt at building a stable family life, but it similarly failed to provide a traditional family structure and ended in divorce in 1961, right before her life changed forever. Across both of her long marriages spanning nearly 40 collective years, Irene never had children. This left her completely isolated in her personal life as she entered her late 50s as a working-class actress whom the public recognized only as a generic background face. She was a woman who had devoted her entire life to her career, and she had nothing else to show for it. The isolation was a constant source of pain, and Irene often wondered what her life might have been like if she had chosen a different path. The granny phenomenon and its hidden toll. The role that would define Irene Ryan's legacy almost never happened. Series creator Paul Henning initially gave the role of Granny to veteran actress Bea Benaderet, who was already a familiar face to television audiences through her work on The George Burns and Gracie Allen Show and Petticoat Junction. When Irene's agent put her name forward, CBS casting directors explicitly rejected her without an audition, stating she was too young, too slim, and far too vibrant to accurately portray an elderly backwoods woman. The rejection was a devastating blow, but Irene was not willing to accept it. She had spent 40 years fighting for recognition, and she was not about to let a rejection stand in her way. Refusing to accept the rejection, Irene bypassed the corporate casting wall. She personally cornered Paul Henning and demanded a screen test. She famously dared him, asking, "Look, Paul, do I have to go home and get my gray wig and shawl to convince you I can play Granny?" Her boldness paid off. Henning was impressed by her determination and agreed to give her a chance. Irene mathematically convinced Henning that an actual elderly woman in her 70s or 80s would physically collapse under the brutal television production schedules, which ran strictly from 7 in the morning to 7 in the evening daily. Her true age, 59, was an operational necessity to handle the physical pacing of the series. It was a pragmatic argument, but it was also a testament to her understanding of the demands of the industry. She had spent decades working in the brutal world of vaudeville, where performers were expected to endure grueling schedules and punishing conditions. She knew exactly what the job required, and she knew she was capable of handling it. Once the show aired, Irene's real identity completely dissolved. The character of Daisy Moses became so globally ubiquitous that the public utterly ceased recognizing her as Irene Ryan. Fans routinely mobbed her at airports, supermarkets, and restaurants, aggressively demanding she speak in her character's thick Appalachian dialect. The woman who had spent decades struggling for recognition was now so famous that she had lost her own identity. She was no longer Irene Ryan, she was Granny Clampett, and nothing else mattered. The transformation was complete, but it was also a source of deep frustration. Irene had worked so hard to build a career as a versatile performer, and she was now being reduced to a single character. She had been a singer, a dancer, a comedian, and a dramatic actress. But the public only saw Granny. The recognition that she had craved for so long had come at the cost of her own identity. She once remarked to a friend that she sometimes missed being anonymous, missed the freedom of being just Irene, not the character everyone expected her to be. She was forced to endure heavy aging makeup, artificial wrinkling adhesives, and a restrictive gray wig to appear decades older than her actual age. In reality, she was only 5.5 years older than Buddy Ebsen, who played her on-screen son-in-law, Jed Clampett. The illusion was necessary for the show, but it was a constant reminder that she was being valued for a character she played, not for who she really was. The makeup process was grueling, requiring hours in the chair each day, and the adhesives often irritated her skin. But Irene never complained. She understood that the character was the reason for the show's success, and she was willing to endure the discomfort to keep the character alive. She would often arrive at the studio hours before filming, began to allow the makeup department enough time to transform her into Granny, and she never once voiced frustration about the lengthy process. Despite entering her mid to late 60s during the show's run, the script constantly demanded high-energy physical comedy. Irene had to perform her trademark energetic fast shuffle dance, violently stomp across wood floors, sprint across the set, and hoist incredibly heavy props, which put an immense unmonitored physical strain on her cardiovascular system for 9 consecutive years. The hidden toll of her success was taking a devastating toll on her body. She would often return to her dressing room exhausted, her joints aching and her heart racing. But she never complained, never asked for a lighter workload, never acknowledged that her body was struggling to keep up with the demands of the role. She was a professional, and she believed that the show had to go on, no matter what. Behind the scenes, however, her co-stars noticed that she was increasingly fatigued, that she sometimes needed to sit down between takes to catch her breath. But she always waved off their concern, insisting that she was fine. The lack of support from the studio was another source of frustration. CBS executives were focused on the show's ratings and profitability, and they showed little concern for the well-being of the cast. Irene was never given a break, never allowed to slow down, never given the opportunity to rest. The schedule was relentless, and the demands were constant. But Irene pushed through, driven by a sense of duty and a fear of losing the success she had worked so hard to achieve. She knew that the show was her last chance at fame, and she was determined to make the most of it. She often told friends that she would rest when the show was over, that there would be time for relaxation later. Tragically, that time never came. The battles, controversies, and personal feuds. In 1971, despite the Beverly Hillbillies pulling in highly stable, massive audience numbers, CBS executive Fred Silverman executed the infamous Rural Purge. The network abruptly canceled the show alongside Green Acres and Petticoat Junction to pivot toward urban, younger, and wealthier demographics. The decision was a shock to Irene, who had believed that the show's popularity would protect it from cancellation. She was deeply insulted by the decision, viewing it as a corporate attack on working-class American viewers. The cancellation felt like a personal betrayal, a dismissal of everything she had worked for. She had given 9 years of her life to the show, and she had been rewarded with a callous and abrupt ending. Unlike her co-star Buddy Ebsen, who accepted the cancellation calmly, Irene was outraged. She had always been a fighter, and she was not about to let this injustice go unchallenged. In an unprecedented move, she drafted a fierce, formal letter of complaint directly to President Richard Nixon. Nixon, a major fan of the series, cordially responded to her, explicitly stating that he personally loved the show and hated to see it leave the airwaves. The letter was a testament to Irene's willingness to fight for what she believed in, even when the odds were stacked against her. It was also a reflection of her deep connection to the show and the millions of fans who had made it a success. She was not just fighting for herself, she was fighting for the viewers who had made the show a part of their lives. The exchange with Nixon became a source of pride for Irene, a reminder that she had not gone quietly into the night. Rumors long circulated that the cast harbored deep feuds, but historical records confirmed the tension was purely professional. Irene was a meticulous, old-school vaudeville perfectionist. If a co-star missed a comedic cue or flubbed a line, she would openly express severe irritation on set, demanding total technical precision, which occasionally created a stiff, cold working environment. She was not unkind, but she was demanding. She believed that the audience deserved the best possible performance, and she was unwilling to settle for anything less. The tension on set was a reflection of her dedication to her craft, not a personal vendetta against her co-stars. Buddy Ebsen later recalled that Irene was always professional, always prepared, and always expected the same from everyone else. He respected her for that, even if it occasionally made the working atmosphere tense. Her love life remained entirely stagnant after 1961. While her co-stars went home to large families, Irene lived completely alone in her massive estate with zero romantic relationships or extended family structures. Her career was her sole proxy for human connection. The isolation was a constant presence in her life, a reminder of the sacrifices she had made for her career. She had given up the possibility of a family, the comfort of a partner, and the simple pleasures of a shared life. In return, she had received fame, success, and the adoration of millions. But as she grew older, the loneliness became harder to bear. She would often spend holidays alone, surrounded by the trappings of success, but with no one to share them with. Friends from the show would occasionally invite her to their homes, but she often declined, preferring to retreat into the solitude that had become her comfort zone. The tragic final act and terminal diagnosis. Refusing to sit in lonely retirement after the 1971 cancellation, Irene moved across the country to New York City at age 70. She auditioned for and won the role of Berta, Pippin, directed by Bob Fosse. Every single night on Broadway, Irene came out to perform the musical number, No Time at All. The performance was physically demanding, requiring her to perform actual mid-air gymnastics and acrobatics while suspended on a trapeze bar. Her performance was highly acclaimed, earning her a 1973 Tony Award nomination for Best Supporting Actress in a Musical. The nomination was a validation of her talent, a recognition that she was more than just Granny Clampett. She was a performer of extraordinary range and depth. She had proven that she could still captivate audiences, that her years of experience had not diminished her ability to connect with people through her art. On March 10, 1973, during a packed live matinee performance of Pippin, the absolute worst happened. In the middle of the show, Irene suffered a massive stroke right on stage. In an act of pure vaudeville discipline, she fought through the neurological collapse, finished singing her musical number, and managed to walk off into the wings before collapsing entirely. The audience had no idea that anything was wrong. They applauded her performance, unaware that they had just witnessed a woman fighting for her life. Irene's dedication to her craft was absolute. She would not let her body fail her in front of the audience. The stage was her sanctuary, and she would not allow her final performance to be anything less than perfect. She was rushed to a New York hospital and later flown back to Southern California for specialized neurology testing. Doctors made a devastating diagnosis. Her stroke was triggered by a massive, completely inoperable glioblastoma, a highly malignant terminal brain tumor, alongside advanced arteriosclerotic heart disease. The prognosis was grim, and the doctors knew that there was nothing they could do to save her. The tumor was growing rapidly, and it was only a matter of time before it claimed her life. The news was devastating, but Irene was already fading, her consciousness slipping away as the tumor continued to grow. Because she was completely alone and lacked immediate family, doctors and her closest associates made the controversial decision to shield her from the full truth. Throughout her final weeks, Irene was kept comfortable, but was never explicitly told that she had a terminal brain tumor. The decision was made out of a desire to protect her from the emotional pain of knowing that she was dying. But it also meant that she was denied the opportunity to say goodbye, to make peace with her life, and to express her final wishes. The secrecy was a final indignity for a woman who had spent her entire life being denied control over her own destiny. She had spent decades being told what roles she could play and what characters she could portray. And now she was being denied the chance to confront her own mortality on her own terms. On April 26, 1973, Irene Ryan passed away at St. John's Hospital in Santa Monica, California, at the age of 70, less than 2 years after the Beverly Hillbillies ended. Her funeral was a quiet, somber affair attended by her surviving co-stars, including Buddy Ebsen. Having no children, parents, or spouses, she was interred inside a mausoleum crypt at Woodlawn Memorial Cemetery in Santa Monica, California, placed directly beside her sister, Anna Thompson. The cemetery was a peaceful resting place, a quiet end to a life that had been anything but quiet. In her final days, knowing she had no bloodline to inherit her wealth, Irene signed a final will that transformed her entire fortune into a permanent resource. She left her entire $1 million estate to officially found the Irene Ryan Acting Foundation. For over 50 years, this foundation has provided massive annual cash scholarships to thousands of outstanding college theater students across America, ensuring that her hard-earned name lives on through the success of young actors. The foundation is a testament to her generosity, her love of the craft, and her desire to give back to the community that had supported her for so long. It is a legacy that has touched the lives of thousands of aspiring performers, a gift that continues to give long after her death. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to click on the next video on your screen, like this video, and subscribe to our channel for more updates.